Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 8th edition of Europe in Italy 2025, How the Erasmus program empowered the feeling of European citizenship. I'm Carola, and today, together with my colleague Salvatore, we will be moderating the entire conference. Both Salvatore and I are proud members of the student association ESN Urbino, Erasmus Student Network. Every year, we have the pleasure to celebrate the Europe Day, also thanks to the support of the University of Urbino. Indeed, our association has been collaborating with the university on an ongoing and fruitful basis since its inception. I'm emotional. Moreover, these years, we have once again obtained the non-burdensome patronage of the city of Urbino. One of the reasons we are here today is because we want to show you how together we can be the difference in this world, and also how diversity is not anything to judge, but something that can enrich us. Therefore, there is no better way to start this day with the word of the institution that follow and support us on our path all together. So, I will leave the floor with the Prorector Vieri Fusi. Please, if you can come here.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I prefer to speak in Italian in this moment because I'm here for an occasion. Well, I switch in Italian. Buongiorno, benvenuti a tutti e a tutte. Il magnifico rettore mi ha chiesto di portare i suoi saluti, i saluti dell'Ateneo, quindi siamo lieti di avervi qua. Anche credo c'è lo streaming, giusto? Quindi grazie, saluto anche le persone che sono collegate. Come Ateneo voi sapete che siamo impegnati, abbiamo recentemente rinnovato la convenzione degli organi accademici per cui il nostro Ateneo sta mettendo tanti sforzi nell'internazionalizzazione e quindi questo progetto per noi è fondamentale, forse oggi ancora di più tenendo conto delle problematiche che l'Europa sta vivendo e di come dobbiamo rientrare al centro del nostro universo. E voi siete il presente di questo, quindi voi ragazzi, voi giovani, spesso si dice il futuro, no, voi siete il presente e siete voi che ci dovete aiutare a essere tutti uniti. Noi come Ateneo supportiamo questo vostro andare e accogliamo chi viene, e questa è la cosa più importante perché lo scambio delle idee, delle conoscenze, delle diversità è fondamentale per essere tutti uguali, e questa è la cosa che noi, diciamo, come Ateneo teniamo maggiormente. Ovvio il nostro compito è la formazione, il nostro compito è la ricerca ormai è a livello internazionale e quindi non può che prevedere gli scambi di conoscenza senza barriere. Senza barriere in tutto il mondo, a maggior ragione senza barriere in Europa, cioè dove è assurdo. Per cui penso è difficile in questo momento però, storico che stiamo vivendo, però io che sono più anziano, diciamo, oserei dire mi sento europeo e più quasi... sono toscano, sono italiano, sono europeo, ma sono cittadino del mondo e questo spero per voi che cominciate questo punto di vista, cominciate a espandere il vostro pensiero sia la vostra guida, cioè andare senza... Io anche quando si parla del rientro dei cervelli ho sempre un punto interrogativo, non so se i colleghi sono d'accordo con me. I cervelli vanno e servono a far crescere tutti noi, tutta l'umanità, cioè che siano in Italia o siano in Francia o in Congo, uguale, insomma, non cambia niente. Ripeto, il nostro sforzo d'Ateneo è favorire l'internazionalizzazione, quindi io so che voi siete degli studenti che fra poco sarete chiamati a scegliere il vostro futuro a livello di studio. Io ho solo un paio di messaggi secondo me da darvi, che uno esula da questo argomento specifico, cioè che lo studio all'università si fa in presenza, quindi ora siamo in attacco che si può studiare anche da casa. No, si studia nel luogo fisico, perché, e questo è connesso invece al programma, perché le esperienze si fanno in presenza, scambiandosi le idee, socializzando, cioè non è solo studiare il libro, non è solo studiare la materia, ma è conoscere gli altri, e questo si fa solo se siamo accanto agli altri. Questa è la cosa più importante. E poi non aver paura ad andare, perché andare vi arricchirà. Tutti noi, io compreso, diciamo, chi è nell'università ha fatto periodi fuori, all'estero. Io sono stato negli Stati Uniti, sono stato in Spagna, ma sono state esperienze veramente che mi hanno arricchito, non solo a livello, come dicevo, non solo a livello del mio lavoro, perché vedi gli altri come lavorano, ma a livello di amicizie che si creano e di culture che impari a conoscere. Per cui forza e coraggio, andate senza paura, e grazie di essere qua.
Thank you very much for being here with us today. It's a pleasure for us. Now I will leave the word and the floor to the Professor Ceccarini, that is a delegate of the University of Urbino for the Erasmus program.
Can you hear me? Okay, it works. So I'll try to do the opposite. I'll try to switch to English, even if I wrote down some notes in Italian. So let me say first, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to welcome you to this very interesting initiative that is sponsored by the University of Urbino, and then from this institution in which we work, we all of us work, but also, first of all, from the ESN, that is a very important association that is based not just in Urbino, as you probably know, but all over the Europe. And then when you will be Erasmus students, so you will have friends that are waiting for you in order to better know the city in which you are going to study as Erasmus students, and having new friends, and of course also how to manage a different system of university teaching, as probably you will meet when you will be students of Erasmus student. As already said, my name is Luigi Ceccarini. I'm Erasmus delegate for my department. The department is the Department of Economics, Society and Politics, DESP. But I'm here, I'm a political scientist, but I'm here to represent Professor Walter Balduini, that is abroad for Erasmus staff and commitment, and Professor Balduini is the rectoral delegate for Erasmus+, so it's a very important point of reference for all the Erasmus delegate of the 5 departments that we have in our university. I also want to thank, from myself and then from Professor Balduini, our speakers, that is Giada Santonico, is over there, and Eduardo Rossi, and James Love Renewal. Eduardo and Jim are professors in my school, and I'm very happy to have them as speakers and presenters in this occasion. They will tell us, I think, many important things about a concept that is a very broad, multifaceted, and complex concept, that is the complex of citizenship, and then the European citizenship. European citizenship, or citizenship itself, is a mix of rights, duties, but also the sense of belonging, as Professor Vieri Fusi just said, the sense of being part of something such as a community. In this case, the European community, but is to be part of a community, also a friendship, because the sense of belonging has to do with very strong linkage, connection with other people that are around Europe, but also in the university that I hope you will be part in 2 years' time, I think, because you are attending the third year of your high school, okay? So, but in academia, to be part of this community means to be part of research projects, to be part for publication, research articles, books, but also participation in conferences, seminars. This is very important for us because allow all the scientific community to go around Europe, to meet other colleagues, to discuss research projects, to discuss topics that in which we are involved and that we study. But this also means, I want to repeat again, I don't have the Alzheimer yet, but I want to repeat that the friendship is another point that was just underlined and mentioned by Professor Vieri. Friendship is another important point that you can live if you go abroad, go around Europe, but go around also the world. For example, we met yesterday an American colleague from Villanova University, with which we have a connection. I have to leave now after this presentation because I have to meet, and Jim, I'm waiting for you, our colleagues from Warsaw. Warsaw is an important university for our bilateral agreement in the Erasmus network. So also friendship is very, very important because these experiences make us more cosmopolitans, make us less parochial, if you want to use a political scientist category. So we overcome a narrow-minded approach to life, to society, to politics, to culture. So I think this is very, very important in order to be less localist. Of course, as Professor Vieri said, he's Tuscany, and he is very attached to this region, also in terms of identity. I'm from Marke region, but I was born in Switzerland. And 2 weeks ago, I was in Birmingham. And 2 months ago, we were together, Jim, in Warsaw. So to be part of this network means to go around the world, to meet other people, to have new friends, and to see new way to live, to work, to face the world, and then also the reality that during this last few months is not so happy because there are too many wars around this world. So I think this is very important to be part of this network. So my invitation, my advice is, if you do the university, as I hope for you, please take the occasion, take this opportunity to go around Europe as an Erasmus student. There is not just Erasmus study, but there is also Erasmus traineeship, and there are many other projects, many other mobility opportunity to go around. So don't waste this opportunity because it's very, very important. So I don't want to waste your time because there are 3 presentations. So I wish you all a good work today. I hope you enjoy the presentation of my colleagues. Citizenship is something very, very important. Try to focus on the deep meaning of this category. Unfortunately, as I said, I have to go because I have to meet these friends, but I hope that you will enjoy this day. That is the, I don't know, the 5th edition, maybe. Is this the 5th edition? 8th edition. So it's long live to Europe, but long live also to to ESN. And I want to just say the last point: we have to celebrate Europe and the European Day, not just tomorrow. This is the 9th of May, but every day, because Europe is very important for our present, our future, but also our identity, and all the possibilities that Europe can give us. Thanks very much for your attention, and enjoy this day.
Thank you very much for being here with us. It was really a pleasure for us. And last but not least, I have the pleasure to introduce you the president of ESN Italy, Matilde Quaglia, who, despite not being able to be here today, has kindly sent us a video greetings for us. So please play the video.
Hello everyone, I'm Matilde and I'm the president of ESN Italy. First of all, I would like to sincerely apologize for not being there with you today in presence. I was there last year and I truly care about this event and its message. That's why I wanted to share, at least through this video, a few words with you. This conference is not just timely, but essential. We are celebrating it, in fact, during the European Week, a moment in which we reflect on the values, the challenges, and the future of the European Union. As Erasmus Student Network, we see every day how international mobility can be a powerful driver of active citizenship. When young people study or volunteer abroad, they don't just acquire knowledge and skills, but they build bridges between culture, strengthen European identity, and often they return home more engaged, more informed, and more willing to take part in the democratic life. So I want to really thank you all for being here, and I really hope that you will enjoy the conference.
I want to thank all of you for your contribution and for being here today with us. It means a lot for us. As Carola mentioned at the beginning, this is the 8th edition of Europe in Italy, a conference that we, ESN Urbino, organize every year to celebrate Europe Day. It is the 9th of May. This particular day was chosen in memory of when Robert Schuman, on the same day in 1950, presented the plan for the economic cooperation, which was the first important step that led to the birth of the European Union. This institution has changed the lives of us citizens, which is why we keep to celebrate this anniversary each year by investigating the meaning of European citizenship and highlighting the opportunities it offers. To do so, this year we have 3 special guests who will bring us on a journey to discover the Union and the European citizenship. Giada Santonico, Liaison Officer of ESN Italy for European Affairs, who will hold the speech One Europe, Many Voices, Mobilizing Active Citizenship through ESN. Professor James Newell from the Department of Economics, Society and Politics with the speech What Has Europe Ever Done for Me? European Citizenship and the Erasmus Program. Professor Edoardo Rossi from the Department of Law with the speech Empowering European Citizenship in the Digitalized World. What contribution from the higher education? For those who follow us via YouTube streaming, you can ask as many questions as you want, posting them in the comment bar, and at the end of each talk, there will be about 10 minutes in which our speakers will answer your questions. So now, I think we can start with the first intervention. So Giada, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. As they say, I'm Santonico Giada, and I'm the liaison officer for European Affairs of ESN Italy. Okay, so before starting, I want to bring the regards from all the National Board of ESN Italy, because as Matilda said in the video, and as you may know, tomorrow is going to be Europe Day, so of course many of us are just spread all over Italy just to attend many local initiatives. So what are we going to say and what are we going to talk today? For first, I made a short summary just to let you know what are we going to discuss today, just in order for you to, I don't know, have passion or whatever. So for first, I will talk about what I think Europe is giving us. So what's European Union for me, and I hope for you too. And doing so, I'm going to introduce the Erasmus Plus program, and as a member of ESN, what we do in ESN and why I really think, and I'm proud to say that ESN can really be a tool for active citizenship. So What's European citizenship? For first, I really want to say that when we talk about European Union, we are not just talking about a political or an economic entity. We are talking about shared values. Values that a lot of time we take for granted, but that we know that they are not granted in many parts of the world. I'm talking about peace, about solidarity, about democracy, and most of all, I'm also talking about the right to move from one country to the other. We can travel, we can study, we can work in many different countries without even the need of a passport. And that's something that we don't have to take for granted, because that leads us to have a shared identity that we wouldn't have otherwise. And talking about shared identity, one of the most successful stories about the European Union is the program Erasmus+, because it's one of the main tools that we have to feel this shared identity. So what's the Erasmus Plus program? For first, at the beginning, it was established in 1987, and it was just known as the Erasmus program. It only included 11 countries, and the first year, only 3,234 people did the Erasmus experience. And it was only an exchange program for higher education. And during the years, of course, it evolved and changed into the Erasmus Plus program that we know nowadays. Now, of course, it expanded. It's not just about mobility exchanges anymore. It's also about youth exchanges. It's about volunteers, teaching, trainership, because it's about all the different sides of education. And yeah. I will tell you a bit of numbers before starting to tell you why that's one of the best and most successful stories about the European Union. For first, as I said at the beginning, the first year it was only about 11 different countries and pretty much 3,000 people, which is still a big number, because think about 3,000 people whose life were changed from this program. But think at the same time that nowadays more than 13 million people have joined the program through the years since its beginning. And it includes now 34 countries, also some not related to the European Union, just as Norway or Iceland. And at the same time, it has connection with 160 countries worldwide. And as you can see there, I'm talking about the 2021-2027 budget. This is because, This is because every 6 years the budget changes and the aim of the program changes with it. And nowadays we are living in the 2021-2027 cycle with a budget that is about 26 billion of euros, which is pretty much doubled from the previous cycle, because with the time, the Erasmus Plus program is always becoming more important to the European Union. And the main aim for this cycle were doubling the participation by its end, so by 2027, promoting social inclusion, supporting the green transition and everything related to environmental sustainability, and then, as we said at the beginning, fostering active citizenship and the democratic engagement. Because if at the beginning the Erasmus program was just about mobility changes, now it's not just that. It's an investment for peace, for social inclusion, and for youth empowerment. And why I was talking about the founding and how big this is becoming? Because, as I already said, this can be considered one of the most successful stories of the European Union. That's because with this program, European Union is investing on us, on the youth of the future of Europe. Because when you live for living an experience abroad, of course you develop some soft skills that you wouldn't have otherwise. I'm talking about resilience, adaptability, empathy, but also being open-minded, for example, or a sense of belonging. Why this? Because while you live, you're leaving your comfort zone. You need to overcome some challenges that, of course, you will find, because you are living in a new reality with new people that speak another language, and learning how to overcome this challenging is going to give you some soft skills, just like adaptability, that you wouldn't gain otherwise. At the same time, living lets you meet people from everyone, like everyone in the world. You can meet people from different countries with different beliefs, with different background, and that led us to one of the mottos of ESN, that's being united in diversity. Because of course we are different, we have many differences from religious beliefs, also probably political views, way of living, but at the same time, there is always going to be something stronger that unites us than everything that can make us feel different. And at the same time, you will develop a sense of belonging. First, you will develop a sense of belonging for your hometown, for your nation, because you just living, you will understand how deep is your root with your hometown, your country, in this case, Italy for us. But at the same time, you will develop a sense of belonging with your Erasmus destination and sense of belonging when it comes about being part of the same European Union. And because even with a different background, we can always say proudly that we are all from Europe. And at the same time, I'm not saying that that's the only way you could develop these skills or that you wouldn't feel attached to Europe or to your country otherwise, but that's definitely an easier way to feel this emotion. And that's why the Erasmus Plus program is investing a lot on us doing so. Because traveling, you can develop a civic awareness and a sense of shared responsibility, because you can experience new culture, you can experience this new way of living, and you can understand that we are all contributors to a common European project. And at the same time, we all know what democracy is, but at the same time, you will be able to experience different political systems, different social issues, and different way of organizing communities. Doing this, you would feel when something is wrong, and you will, at least I hope, you will get the urge to change things when things can be changed. Because, I mean, even if you maybe didn't do an Erasmus program yet, you haven't been part of this. First, I really wish you, for all of you in this room, to can experience that. But at the same time, I also hope that you can feel part of something bigger already nowadays, just being here and experiencing all of this. And now I'm going to talk to you about ESN for a bit, because as we said, I'm actually from ESN Padova, but likely you're from ESN Urbino, and they have done a great job during this conference. So, what's ESN? ESN is the biggest student organization in Europe. And actually, at the beginning, it's ESN International. It's born only 2 years later, the first Erasmus program. In 1989, 32 Erasmus students met in Ghent, and they decided that they wanted to help other students. Their motto was student helping student. And after 36 years of ESN existing, that's still our motto. We are just students, but we are people that believe that something greater can be achieved all together. So, as I was writing in the slides, we live by some most common sentences that are, as I just said, student helping student, but also united in diversity. Because as I said before, of course, there are some differences, but I'm really sure that we can overcome them. I said the wrong word, sorry. And one thing is sure, the first 32 people wouldn't ever imagine how big ESN is now. We are talking about a network that is existing in 44 different countries, with more than 500 local sections, more than 15,000 volunteers, and we are talking about people who are helping more than 350 people every single year. Because as I said before, there are going to be challenges to overcome while you travel. And one of the main aim of ESN is trying to help those people feeling the best and being able to fully enjoy the experience abroad. And in order to do so, we are, of course, really related also to the Erasmus Plus program. And in order to do so, we work on 6 different key causes that are education and youth, culture, health and well-being, environmental sustainability, social inclusion, and skills and employability. And of course, they are not the only event we do in ESN. ESN has been known for many years as an volunteer organization that throws party or more chill events. But at the same time, like the greatness of ESN is that we can do both. We can help people feeling included, but also we can help people feeling a sense of civic awareness. And I won't talk about all the causes because I don't want to bother you more than I should. But I wanted to introduce you just to 3 of these because the 3 that probably are more related to just keeping feeling what Europe is here for. So the first of the causes I will talk about is education of youth, because it's pretty much the heart of ESN. I said that the Erasmus program and the Erasmus Plus program is all about education and youth empowerment, and that's one of the causes of ESN. Doing these causes, we just want to promote student participation in education, in youth and work policies. And in order to explain you what we do, I chose to just show you that, because the screenshot you can see there is from a website that we have in ESN International that's called Activities. And every single local section, so we are talking about more than 500 local sections, can just publish the event they do when they are related to one of the causes. And that's one of the biggest tools we have in ESN, I think, because doing so, we can get best practices, we can get ideas from literally everywhere in Europe. And the first one I wanted to talk about, it's called Erasmus in School. That's pretty much what we are doing now also, because it's just volunteer of ESN explaining what the Erasmus Plus program is for and trying to get you interest, because it's something really big and really important, so something that you really should think about for your future. And in the same way, I wanted to talk about skills and employability. So what do we do with these other causes? As I said before, one of the aims of the Erasmus Plus program is also just youth empowerment. And there's nothing easier to understand that seeing people working on their skills, because I talked about developing soft skills traveling, and that's one of the examples. The activity I was showing you, it's called just how to create your CV, and it was just about learning how to boost your curriculum with all the activity that you can learn during your Erasmus, during your time being an ESN volunteer. And last but not least, I wanted to talk to you about environmental sustainability, because I don't know if you remember in the slide where I was talking about the aim for the 2021-2027 cycle, one of the main aims for the European Union with the Erasmus Plus program was to work on environmental sustainability. And as ESN, I can proudly say that we do that a lot, because traveling means also to take care of the place you're visiting. And I'm proudly saying that with ESN, we always try to push people just by example, just step by step, to be the better version of themselves from this point of view. And the event I was showing you, it's a really cool one actually, because it's from the Earth for the Earth Day of 2025 from ESN Palermo, and they were just releasing to the sea some rescued turtles that, of course, because of the pollution of the beaches, wouldn't have been able to reach the sea. And at the same time, if you can see, like here at the bottom, I put a picture that I actually took not so long ago, because a lot of time we work with Plastic Free for doing some cleanup of the places we visit. And I think it's a great thing that with ESN we are promoting a lot, because, I don't know, I always see it as a sort of way to say thank you to the place who's hosting us. And now, this is the last project I will talk about from ESN, probably the best example of how big ESN can be. Because the campaign of You Vote was a campaign organized for last year election, European election, and it was organized pretty much from Matilde Paglia, the girl you've seen in the video before, who was the former liaison officer for European Affairs and Youth, and the actual president of ESN Italy, the former president of ESN Italy, Gaia Tamasi, and the former and still actual communication manager of ESN Italy, Nicoletta Duellino. And what's about You Vote and why it's so important for us? You Vote is actually a campaign that they did, but we did as ESN Italy, just to promote the European election. It's so big because the aim of this wasn't just to tell people to go vote, it was actually to make sure that people could feel the importance of voting. Because a lot of time, the truth is that we don't know what's going on in Europe, because a lot happens every time and it's really difficult to keep up. So the aim of this campaign was just, and they did it with the newsletters, with the podcast, with posts on Instagram, just to make sure people knew what was going on. In this way, they could feel the importance of voting. And we can probably say that it worked. As I said before, there are 350 students that every single year get to experience some mobility abroad because of the Erasmus Plus program. And if at least like half of these people could feel moved from our campaign and could go vote, it will still be a really, really great achievement, not only for ESN, but for all Europe, because we always say that it's your right to vote, but you also should do that. And of course, the You Vote campaign doesn't exist anymore because it was about the European election. And I didn't say an important thing, like our campaign was so big that it actually won the Charlemagne Youth Prize, which is a big international prize, and it's a really, really big achievement for us to have won it. And of course, it doesn't exist anymore, the campaign itself, because it was just for the European election. But we saw that so many people actually didn't want to go to vote because they didn't know what was going on. So the project, it's still alive actually, it just rebranded. It's called The Future now, and it's a newsletter and a podcast that we still publish every month, and in which we just explain in a couple of pages, just talking in a really easy way what's going on, because the key to be part of the change and to feel part of Europe is to know what's going on. So before asking if you have any question, I just wanted to show you some picture from what we do in ESN and saying that the Erasmus Plus can help you changing your life. But at the same time, I'm really proud to say that ESN can give a minute to it, and there are many ESN volunteers here, and I think that they can all agree with what I'm saying, because at the same time, if you get the chance to do an Erasmus Plus mobility, like anything related to Erasmus Plus, it can be trainership, it can be youth exchanges, going whenever it's going to be with university, just do it, because it's worth it, and you're going to feel the difference. So yeah, for any question, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Zada, for your incredible speech. It was really interesting, and it's true that association like ours can be the difference in this world. So, if the public, there's anyone that has any answer, please raise your hands and come to the table. Yeah, Lara, come please.
Thank you so much, Giada, for the speech. My question to you is, what were the main challenges in expanding participation in the Erasmus Plus program, particularly for groups beyond university, like international students? And what strategies did you adopt to engage traditionally underrepresented groups, like, for example, apprentices, volunteers, etc.?
Okay, so the truth is that a big part, it also comes from the universities, because as a network like ESN, we can sponsor things like Erasmus, we can talk about how important it is, just as we're doing it now, but a lot of time we also need the help of the universities for doing that. And that's why mostly in the last 10 or 15 years, many also university alliances were born, because doing so, it's easier to promoting change when your university is already connected. And an important part is also given from the foundings. The more founding you have, and the more you can support it. That's why it's really important that European Union is keeping increasing the budget for the Erasmus Plus program. Also for the next cycle, actually something really, like it's happening just now, that they are discussing in these weeks what's gonna be the future of the Erasmus Plus program. And I don't know if any of you know, like I told you before, it's a 6 years program. The next one is gonna start in 2028, so now the European Union is deciding what's gonna be the future of the program. And I think that the more funding you have, the more initiative you can do, and the more it can be expanded.
Thank you.
Does anyone has any other question? Sorry, Albano, come here, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation, Giada. My question is, how does ESN monitor and measure the impact of the causes? And what concrete result have ESN Italy observed so far? Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry. The main way we are doing that, mostly as ESN International, actually, it's with a survey. It's called ESN Survey, and actually this year there is going to be the second edition of this survey, and it's not about just the volunteer, it's about pretty much everyone who has experience sometimes abroad. It's about youth in general, and that's probably the easier way you can see the impact of this, because for the last survey, which was actually also the first, over 25,000 people did the survey, and 2,005 people, we are talking about a lot of lives who were changed, and hearing and being able to read these stories, it's pretty much the easier way to know what are we doing. It's something actually really, really big.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, otherwise we will move on. Thank you again, Giada, for your speech. And now we'll go to the next guest, Professor Newell. Please, the floor is yours.
Use my voice, but all right, I'll use this. I think it's enormously appropriate that this conference is being held today, and that's for two reasons. First of all, it's the 8th of May today, which, as you probably know, is the 80th anniversary to the day that World War II ended in Europe. So, if I'm honest, I feel a little bit emotional about that. The second reason why it's important, of course, is that we've got the conclave going on in Rome. And as you probably know, the Roman Catholic Church was, I think I'm right in saying, the very first institution of European integration. And it reminds me of a story that I heard recently about religious education in schools. Apparently in one particular school, there was a group of school students queuing up in front of a plate of apples. And next to the apples was a sign written in adults' handwriting which said, "Take only one apple, God is watching." And at the other end of the queue was a plate of biscuits. And next to this plate of biscuits there was a sign obviously written in child's handwriting, and it said, "Take as many biscuits as you want, God is watching the apples." So, what do I want to do today? So firstly, what I'd like to do is I'd like to say why I think the European Union is important, then why I think European citizenship is important, and then how Erasmus reinforces senses of European citizenship. But before we get into any of that, let us remind ourselves what the EU is and how it works. So, as I'm sure you all know, the European Union, as the European Economic Community, was founded in 1957 by the 6 founding member states, including Italy. Its goal was to promote economic integration. What do I mean by economic integration? Economic integration, I think, essentially means 3 things. First of all, it means an acceptance by countries that they will be better off if instead of trying to produce everything themselves, they specialize in different goods and exchange. It means a recognition that they are dependent on other countries. So, for instance, if you produce garments, you will need to import raw cotton from other countries. And thirdly, it means the likelihood that we will see the emergence of global supply chains, so that products end up being produced in many different countries at the same time. So, for example, a car might be produced in all the countries of the EU. The body is produced in France, and then it goes to Spain for the addition of the doors, then to Italy for the addition of the wheels, then to Germany for the addition of the engine. Okay, so it was understood that we would all be better off with economic integration for reasons that I will explain in just a minute. And because we would all be better off and more dependent on each other, that would make war much less likely because, of course, if you went to war, it would involve considerable sacrifices and problems that don't arise if you are less dependent on each other. Okay? So, that is really why economic integration is desirable. And it was also recognized that increasing process of economic integration would almost certainly lead and necessitate further processes of political integration. So, how does the European Union function? Well, the first thing to be aware of is the concept of legal supremacy. In other words, the idea that European law overrides national law. If you have a problem that results in you going to court, you have the ability to defend your rights by insisting that, for instance, your rights have been infringed by some aspect of domestic law that is not compatible with EU law. Yeah? So in that case, the court will decide that it is the domestic law that needs to change. European laws then come about, first of all, because they are initiated by something called the European Commission. Okay, members of the European Commission are appointed by the member states after each European Parliament election, which takes place every 5 years, and then the Commission is approved by the European Parliament. Okay? So you're probably asking at that point, well, what happens if the European Parliament doesn't approve the Commission? Well, if that happens, then the process has to start all over again. It's never actually happened that the Commission has never been approved by the European Parliament, at least not formally speaking, although it did happen in 2004 that a number of problems were raised with the a commission that was nominated by José Manuel Barroso, who was the commission president at the time. There were problems specifically over one commissioner, Rocco Buttiglione, that the parliament had problems with, and so therefore the process had to begin all over again. Okay, so the parliament has never officially voted down a commission, but it has exercised real influence over the composition of the Commission. So the European Parliament, although we don't hear about it very much, is a very, very important institution. So legislation is initiated by the Commission. It is then approved by two other bodies, the Council of the European Union and the European Parliament. The Council of the European Union is a body which consists of representatives of each of the member states. The European Parliament is elected once every 5 years, and normally they approve legislation by something known as the ordinary legislative procedure, which essentially means that they consider the text that emerges from the European Commission. The text can be amended by either the European Council or the European Parliament. If it is amended, it then goes to the other body, which can improve the amendments or not. And essentially, the text shuttles back and forth between the Council and the European Parliament at least twice for them to try to agree a commonly worded text. And then if they can't, they appoint a committee which tries to find a compromise between them. Okay? Then finally, we get the European Court of Justice, which is the body responsible for ensuring that European law is upheld. And among other things, what happens if you go to court because you have an issue of law, then if European law is relevant to the case, then the domestic court may apply to the European Court of Justice and say, okay, we have this case, or we have to make a decision. Please instruct us as to how we are to interpret this item of European law, because we need this in order to be able to make a decision in the case. So here we have a diagram which shows us the European institutions, and as you can see, the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, and the European Parliament are all indicated there, okay, along with the various other institutions that contribute to the legislative process, particularly the Economic and Social Committee and the Committee of the Regions, by supplying opinions. Okay, so they give opinions which influence the making of European legislation. Okay, why then is European Union important? Why should we care about it? I think we should care about it for three reasons. First of all, it gives us prosperity. Secondly, it protects us. And thirdly, it is responsible for the passage of all kinds of laws which benefit us in various ways. So, how does it give us prosperity? Well, it gives us prosperity by means of the process of economic integration that I mentioned. Okay, and therefore, thanks to trade between member states, yes, because the idea is that with increasing European integration, as I will come on to explain, trade is much easier between member states, yeah? And this, as I say, gives us greater prosperity. So why does greater trade give us greater prosperity? Why are we all better off if countries trade with each other rather than trying to produce everything themselves? Well, the reason for that was explained to us back in 1817 by somebody by the name of David Ricardo, who invented the theory of comparative advantage. And the theory of comparative advantage says that even if there is one country that is better able to produce all conceivable goods than another country, it will still benefit both of them to specialize in the production of the goods in which they have a comparative advantage and to trade rather than producing everything themselves. And he gave the he used this famous example to try to demonstrate that. So here we have an imaginary economy consisting of England and Portugal producing two products, cloth and wine. And what you can see is that Portugal is more efficient at producing both cloth and wine than England is, because Portugal can produce 1 unit of cloth with 90 hours of labor, whereas it takes England 100 hours of labor to do so. It takes Portugal 80 hours of labor to produce 1 unit of wine, whereas it takes England 120 hours of labor. But what you can also see from this graph is that, relatively speaking, Portugal is more efficient at producing a wine than cloth. It can produce 1 unit of wine with 80 hours of labor, whereas it takes 90 hours to produce 1 unit of cloth. And vice versa for England. England is much more efficient at producing cloth than it is at producing wine. So the idea is that if England gives up producing wine and just concentrates on producing cloth, and likewise Portugal gives up producing cloth and just producing wine, we can be much better off. And this graph shows why this is the case. Because before specialization, we just get 2 units of each. After specialization, we get 2.2 units of cloth and 2.125 units of wine. Okay, why? Well, if England just produces cloth, yes, and it devotes 220 hours to just producing cloth, okay, it gets 1 unit of cloth with 100 hours, so if it devotes all 220 hours just to producing cloth, then it's going to get 2.2 units, yeah? Okay? And likewise with wine. So we get more of both commodities. So the idea is, if we specialize in those commodities that we are best at, and we engage in trade with each other, then we can all be better off. So this is the great benefit of free trade. This is the great benefit of economic integration, which is all about reducing barriers to trade. And so therefore, what the European Union is about is trying to reduce barriers to trade. Okay, so there are tariff barriers, there are non-tariff barriers having to do with things like different health and safety and labeling regulations in different countries, okay, which is a barrier to trade, because if a company has to produce goods that conform to the regulations of Italy and Germany and France and Spain, and they all differ, its costs are going to go up, and therefore it is less beneficial for the company to engage in trade. Okay, so European integration has been all about trying to reduce non-tariff barriers as well as tariff barriers to trade, and it has also been about trying to eliminate currency fluctuations. Currency fluctuations are a very important barrier to trade. Imagine that before we got the development of the euro, let us imagine that you were an Italian producer of nails, and you wanted to export nails to Germany. Okay, you realize that in order to make a profit, you have to be able to sell your nails at 1,000 lire. Okay, and the exchange rate for these nails, or the exchange rate between the Italian lira and the German mark, is 500 lire to 1 German mark. Okay, 500 lire to 1 German mark. If you need to make 1,000 lire to be able to make a profit, then in the German market you need to be able to sell your nails at 2 marks a packet. Okay? Now let's imagine that in the middle of all this, suddenly the value of the German mark plummets. Okay? And now the German mark is worth not 500 lire per mark, but 250 lire to the mark. Okay? So, if you continue to sell your nails at 2 marks, when you take your marks back to the Banca d'Italia and exchange them for lire, you're only going to get 500 euros for your packet of nails. You can't do that because that doesn't allow you to make a profit. It doesn't cover your costs. Okay? So you might decide, all right, well, I will try to sell my nails at 4 marks, which then will enable me still to get 1,000 lire when I take the marks back to the Banca d'Italia. But German consumers may not be able to pay 4 marks for your nails. They may be able to get nails more cheaply elsewhere or whatever. Okay? So you can't sell them. So these currency fluctuations are considerable barriers to trade because they don't allow you to predict anything. You can't plan your business. So that was why we got the introduction of the euro in 1999 in order to remove currency fluctuations as a barrier to trade. So, European integration then gives us prosperity. It also gives us protection, and it gives us protection in 2 ways. First of all, because the European Union is responsible for negotiating trading deals, arrangements with other parts of the world, and because the European Union is a larger entity than each of the countries individually, it can give us much better terms of trade than if we have to negotiate all those things on our own. It also enables us more effectively to resist the pressure of multinational companies, which, as you know, very often try to play countries off against each other, insisting on lower tax regimes, lower health and safety standards in exchange for being willing to invest in the country. Well, again, the European Union is a much larger entity. It's much better able to resist that kind of pressure. And then a very good example of this is the OECD G20 Base Erosion and Profit Sharing Initiative, which is an agreement, unfortunately, it's now under threat from our friend Donald Trump in the United States and the possibility that the United States won't ratify it. However, this was an international agreement that the European Union played a very significant role in trying to develop, whereby all countries would agree to levy a certain minimum level of tax on multinational corporations precisely to prevent them playing off countries against each other and to ensure that large companies paid their fair shares of taxes. So that's the second reason why European integration is important. The third reason it's important is because it gives us all kinds of beneficial laws. There are many that one can mention, and it is a real shame that they don't get the kinds of publicity which I think they deserve, bearing in mind the significant impact they have in the lives of all of us. One very good example is the 2024 Platform Work Directive, which seeks to protect the wages and conditions of work of platform workers, including Uber drivers. I can see that some people are smiling at "E noi come stronzi rimanemmo a guardare." Okay, so this is a lovely film which I would really recommend you to see by an Italian film director called Piff. On one level, it's a romantic comedy, but on another level, it is a very, very biting satire about the power of large technological firms and the way in which they dominate our lives by providing all kinds of applications which are very essential for our everyday lives, Google Maps, Booking.com, WhatsApp, and so on, which we all have to use because everybody else uses, but in a certain way results in us perpetuating our own subordination, because when we use these apps, of course, we're providing all massive quantities of data to the companies which allow them to dominate us further. Okay, so the EU, through its legislation, is able to regulate properly large firms. Another example is the 2023 carbon border tax, which means that companies, when they import to the EU, are required to declare the amount of carbon that was sent into the atmosphere through the production of their products, and pay taxes accordingly. So what does that do? Well, it encourages green technology outside the EU, and it prevents companies, European companies, from saying, okay, we won't produce in the EU where environmental standards are higher, we'll produce elsewhere, because they know that even if they do that, they'll have to pay the carbon border tax when they import their goods back into the EU. So it's a very important piece of legislation protecting the environment. And then there's legislation on fast fashion, which also has environmental implications. There is legislation on digital services and all that kinds of things. So why is European citizenship important? Well, we all know what a citizen is. To be a citizen is to be a member of a political community. It implies that you have rights and obligations, yes, the right to vote, civil rights, welfare rights, all that sort of thing. It also implies that you have obligations, typically to obey the law, to pay your taxes fairly, and to engage in collective decision-making by being politically informed and going to vote when you are asked to do so. Citizenship is very important because it contributes to social and political cohesion, because if you are a citizen, you are aware that you have certain rights and obligations on exactly the same terms as every other citizen, so that results in you feeling a certain degree of solidarity and a sense of identity with your fellow citizens. Because you feel that, it also means that you have a sense of ownership of political institutions. So, for instance, I might find myself abroad talking politics to somebody, I don't know, to an Italian colleague, and I might say, oh, you know, our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, oh, he's a dreadful guy, oh, he's just done this, he's just done that. But note that I use the expression, our Prime Minister. Yeah, which is very important. It betrays the fact that I feel myself to be a UK citizen, and therefore I have a sense of ownership of the institution that Starmer represents, and therefore I am, by that means, giving a legitimacy, political legitimacy to the UK political institutions. So citizenship gives legitimacy to institutions, it therefore reinforces them, and I want to argue then that if we want further European integration, we need, through citizenship, to reinforce the legitimacy of the institutions that have to have responsibility for taking forward this integration. And I think that integration is important for three reasons in particular. First of all, we live in a world of growing illiberality and global instability. There is much discussion at the moment about coordinated European defense. The problem is that European or that defense policy is not at the moment integrated. It remains at the level of European states. And so what does this mean? It means that defense expenditure in Europe is much, much less efficient than it might be. Bear in mind that Europe spends twice as much collectively on defense as Russia does, but it's much less efficient than the Russian expenditure. Why? Well, because if each country is producing its own tanks to its own specification, then if I'm trained to repair French tanks, I can't necessarily repair Italian tanks, which are completely different. If I want to place an order for some kind of defense expenditure, then it's going to cost much more because, as we know, the costs for a company per unit for meeting a small order are much greater than they are for producing a larger order. If each country produces its own defense systems, then it has to pay for the research and development involved in their development 3 times over, yes? So if, let's say, France wants to produce a new generation of tanks, it engages in all the research and development and it produces 200 tanks, or it orders 200 tanks, then those research and development costs are spread over 200 tanks, and so therefore they cost much more. If we do it at the European level and we do the research and development and we order 2,000 tanks, then the same research and development costs are spread over 2,000 tanks, and so the costs are that much lesser, fewer. So we need further integration for that reason. We need further integration because of European enlargement, which is continuing all the time. This table simply shows you the enlargement negotiations that are in progress at the moment. And clearly, if you are enlarging the European Union, a larger European Union is much more difficult to manage, and so you need further integration. In other words, further transfers of sovereignty to the EU level, further powers for the EU institutions in order to make the management of a larger EU possible. And then thirdly, we need it in order to counter the growing tide of nationalist populism, because if you think about it, much of the propaganda of nationalist populist parties is directed towards the EU. They complain constantly about the EU. And so if we want to counter nationalist populism, then we need to reform the European institutions in order to make the complaints of nationalist populists somewhat less potent. So how then finally does Erasmus reinforce senses of European citizenship? Well, we've heard a lot about this already from previous speakers. It creates personal connections across borders. It breaks down stereotypes. It helps people to learn about the EU in practice. It encourages multilingualism. It empowers active participation. It creates a European alumni class. And in doing all that, what it does is contribute to the possible emergence of a European public sphere. So what do I mean by a public sphere? A public sphere is nothing other than the rules, the institutions, and the organizations, so in other words, rules about voting, institutions, legislatures, that sort of thing, and the organizations, political parties, and pressure groups, through which citizens come together to make collective political decisions. That's what we mean by the public sphere. Every country has one. The problem is that the European public sphere, as things stand at the moment, and the European public sphere is important for citizenship because it is precisely through the public sphere that a citizen exercises the rights and meets the obligations that define citizenship in the first place. Okay. The problem is that the European public sphere, as it is at the moment, is only weakly developed. It is only weakly developed because, as we know, most media systems focus very much on what is going on at a national level. European Parliament elections, unfortunately, at the moment, are very much like 27 separate national contests without much discussion of European-wide issues. So what I'm saying to you is that we need citizenship in order to contribute to the emergence of a European public sphere, that Erasmus helps the development of a sense of citizenship, and that if we get a sense of a European public sphere, then European integration is going to be much more possible. So finally, what can we conclude from this? First of all, I want to say Europe is a real precious gift. and I cannot say that more strongly enough. It is a really precious gift. It has made us better off. It protects us. It is responsible for all kinds of legislation which is very significant in our everyday lives. But it is a gift that is under threat from various sources. So if we want to protect this gift, we need to be better informed. That will contribute to a sense of European citizenship, and reinforcing that sense of European citizenship will enable us to further develop European institutions. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Professor Newell, for your speech. So now, if someone has any questions, please, Nicolo, come here.
Hi, so I have like two questions that can be summed in one. One is like, what are the challenges that are going to be in front of the further European integration when we are talking about the enlargement of the Union, and what can be done to promote the further integration of the European institutions and nations?
Right. Okay. So one challenge is this. At the moment, when decisions are made in the European Council about legislation, it's done by a process called qualified majority voting, okay, which effectively allows some countries to exercise vetoes, okay. Some very important decisions require unanimity, which also allows countries to exercise vetoes. The larger the number of countries you have in the European Union, therefore, the more difficult it becomes to find the necessary agreement, and therefore the more difficult it is to make decisions. And so that's why we need further integration in order to make European enlargement feasible. Okay. What are the main challenges of European integration? Okay, so I think the main challenges are that the larger the number of countries that are involved, the more diverse they are. Okay, and the more diverse they are, the more difficult it becomes to ensure uniformity on things like the rule of law, for instance. Yes, in other words, equality before the law, the guarantee that powers cannot be exercised in an arbitrary fashion. It is the rule of law which guarantees us and protects our rights, okay? With a larger number of countries, that becomes slightly more difficult, and as we already know, there are questions about the effective enforcement of the rule of law in the EU in some instances already.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Newell. Do we have, please, Ricardo, come here.
I actually wanted to ask, how can the European public sphere that you mentioned before be strengthened?
Okay, so one very important reform that I would suggest, but it's not just me, there are other people that have been trying to take forward this reform, is to, two reforms in particular. One is to strengthen what is known as the Spitzenkandidat system. Okay, so what is the Spitzenkandidat system? So this is the system whereby in advance of each of the European Parliament elections, the political groups nominate one person who is their candidate for the European Commission. Okay, because after each European election, the European Council is responsible for nominating a Commission President taking account of the European elections. Okay. So it worked this last time. In 2019, it didn't work. But I think that if we strengthened the system, whereby somehow the European Council was obliged to nominate that person because they're not, okay, it would personalize European elections, it would raise turnout, and therefore contribute to the authority of the European Parliament, and by contributing to its authority and giving it a higher profile, mean that its activities were more discussed in public debate. The second reform is the call for the implementation of transnational party lists. Okay, so at the moment in elections for the European Parliament, all constituencies exist within countries. They don't cross borders. Okay, and so that's partly why parties don't really focus in European Parliament elections on European-wide issues. It's probable that if you had transnational constituencies and lists, they would do that more so. We would discuss European issues more, and that would also contribute to the emergence of a public sphere. Those, I think, would make a massive contribution to that emergence.
Okay. Thank you.
Please, Matteo, come here. Oh, sorry, come here.
I wanted to ask what, as high school student, can we do actually to achieve a better future for the European Union, and how can we get informed about it?
Okay. Right, I think for me, the answer to that would be to try to, as best you can, to cultivate an interest in the European Union and what is going on. Because the more informed you are about anything, the more you feel drawn to it, and the more you feel drawn to it, the more you want to defend it and contribute to its development. Okay, it's not always easy, I think, because let's face it, going online and reading about the latest legislative initiatives of the European Parliament is not exactly the most, wildly entertaining thing to do. But I do believe that so for instance, I've got a friend who's very much into football, okay, and feels very passionate about it. I try to follow football, and I go to football matches with him. But you know what? I don't understand how the game's played. He does understand, yeah? And people tell me that people work out strategies and so on before football matches and so on to try and play. I don't understand that, because when I watch a game, all I see is people running around on a pitch, and I just assume you just have to run wherever the ball goes. You can't do any, but I'm told that's not the case, okay? While I do enjoy watching football, my understanding is limited. But I know and I'd like to find out books to help me understand, because I know that if I understand something better, I feel more committed and interested, and the more interested I am, the more I want to protect something. So I don't know, that's what I would say. I don't know if that is convincing, but that would be my answer.
Thank you, Professor Newell. Do you have more questions? Okay, so I think... oh, sorry. Matteo, come here.
Hi, guys. In what ways can the Erasmus program help counter the rise of nationalist populism?
That's a very good question. We can counter the rise of... It's very difficult because, I mean, I've been asking this myself. You know, on the one hand, you want to go out and you want to... So let me take Brexit, for instance, okay? When I think of Brexit, I think that's just stupid. It's just stupid because, okay, if somebody says to me, listen, I'm a very wealthy person, it's against my interests to support a wealth tax, okay? I understand that. That makes sense. I don't agree with it, but it makes sense. You know, if I were a rich person, I might feel that way. And so, you know, all right, that's your point of view. But with Brexit, so, you know, we have different points of view. But with something like Brexit, it's just stupid. From my point of view, we're all worse off by it. It's, you know, it's stupid in the sense that if somebody says to me 2 + 2 = 5, well, I'm sorry, it just isn't true. And I don't care how many people turn around and say 2 + 2 = 5. I'm just not going to agree. So, on the one hand, how can we counter nationalist populists? One's tempted to sort of go in and sort of grab them and say, oh, you're just stupid, you know. But unfortunately, that doesn't work. We have to find a way of engaging with people that doesn't offend them. I think, okay, so I think what we have to do by participating in the Erasmus program, becoming more informed about how the European Union works, and therefore better able to engage with people, because the more informed about something you are, the greater credibility you have, and the more credibility you have, the more power you have. And I think we have to try to engage the nationalist populists on their own terms and say to them, you know what, you're right, yeah, you're right. In several respects, the European Union isn't very democratic, and there are all kinds of problems with it. But you know what? We can make it more democratic. We do not have, as we say in English, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, the solution is not to retreat to our national bunkers, but to try to reform the European Union within, because we'll all be better off, including you, if we do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Professor Newell, for your speech. And now we can go with the next guest. Professor Rossi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to being here today. I'm very glad for the invitation, and I would like to thank, first of all, the members of the ESN Urbino in particular, and all the colleagues that have had the opportunity to speak before me. I must be honest, it is not very easy to talk after the excellent presentation of Jim. I understood that that if I want to it's a joke, of course, I would like to anticipate that, but I understand that if we want to better integrate European integration, we have to start supporting football, because if we understand the football game, maybe we're also able to understand the European integration. That's a joke only. Because I found it very, very, very interesting indeed. During my presentation, I wrote down a few notes that I would like to make references to the presentation of Jim and also Giada too, because I found many points of contact between my presentation and yours. So please let me allow to do that. I would like to thank also all the staff of the Erasmus office of the University of Urbino in particular, and the University of Urbino in general, because if the Erasmus program is working quite well in the University of Urbino, is also because of them and because the works they're doing every day. I'm happy to be here today also because of my double qualify, because I teach European Union law and international law at the Department of Law and the Department of Economics and in particular the course of Political Sciences. Indeed, I've seen a few of my students in the audience. And I'm also happy to be here because I am Vice Dean at the Faculty of Law at the Department of Law for the International Relations and for the Erasmus program. This is why I'm very happy to be here today to share a few insights and few ideas, few reflections with you about the Erasmus program and how it can help in strengthening the sense of European citizenship, and also in the specific perspective of the digital policies and the digital transition. So what I would like to deal with today. First, the first answer that I would like to search with you is very, very easy questions. What is the European Union? And in this case, I would like to mention a few factors that have already been mentioned by Jim, and the Erasmus program. And in this case, also, there will be references to Giada, the presentation of Giada. Why is the Erasmus program a proper and can become, at least, a proper and effective instrument of European citizenship? And the last question is, is there any room for digital policies within the Erasmus program? And I would like to try to share some ideas with you. First of all, what is the European Union? It's not a difficult answer, especially if we listen very well to the presentation of my colleagues. It's an international organization, but it's a unique international organization because of the specific features that it has. And in particular, like all the international organizations, the European Union has been established with treaties. The treaties of the European Union and the treaties on the functioning of the European Union are two main treaties of the European Union today. With these treaties, the member states decided, without being obliged to do that, decided to temporarily transfer their sovereignty, portions of their sovereignty, and so to attribute to the European Union the power to exercise competencies. But why they decided to do that? Why this kind of transfer of sovereignty? Why deciding to renounce to the exercise of national sovereignties? The answer is in the last line, because they had common objectives. This is common objectives and common values. This is why the member states of the European Union decided to renounce to their national powers, even temporarily. States spontaneously renounced to exercise their sovereignty. And they decided to do that, as Jim mentioned before, because this operation, this action, was justified by great common objectives they are able to reach, to achieve, only if they are united, only if they are in common, if they are in the same international organizations. And if we can read the Article 1 of the Treaty of the European Union, we are able to understand perfectly what I was talking about, because this is the very first article of the Treaty of the European Union, the Treaty of Maastricht in the version modified by the Treaty of Lisbon. By this treaty, the contracting parties, the states, the member states, established among themselves a European Union, this international organization, hereinafter called the Union, on which the member states confer competencies to attain objectives they have in common. Competencies are functional to reach common objectives. The European Union cannot exercise their competencies without thinking to the common objectives that the states decided to identify together. And the Article 2 of the treaties regards common values that have already been mentioned by Giada in her presentation, for example. When she said the European Union is not just an economic and political entity. It is true, maybe the European Union was born with this idea, but now it is no more like that. But it is a project of shared values. So I perfectly agree with you. The Union, reading Article 2, the Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities, etc., pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality. These are the main common values and the common objectives of the European Union. And these are the main structure, the main basis of the European citizenship, as we will be able to see in a while. According Article 3, mentioning the objectives of the European Union, so values are the basis, the competence are the method to achieve objectives, and these are the objectives, the purposes of the European Union. The Union's aim is to promote peace, its values, well-being of its people. The Union shall offer its citizens an area of freedom, security, and justice, and the free movement of persons. Is there something that maybe can remind Erasmus? How can Erasmus be relevant in this regard? Free movement of persons, for example, or well-being of its people. But we will see it. There are other common objectives included in Article 3 of the European Union Treaty, or the Treaty of the European Union. I just wanted to show you the list of the objectives, only to underline how wide are the objectives of the European Union and why European Union is a completely different international organization, even if it is an international organization. It's completely different from the other international organizations all around the world. The internal market, sustainable development, full employment, and social progress, scientific and technological advance, combat of social exclusion and discrimination, solidarity between generations, economic, social, and territorial cohesion and solidarity, cultural and linguistic diversity, and cultural heritage. I underlined only the ones that I think that are strongly linked with Erasmus, for example, and the idea of the European citizenship also in a social way and not only in an economic and commercial dimension. The European citizenship. The European citizenship is a category, is not only a legal category. It has a double dimension, a double point of view, in my opinion. It has been created, been established as a category, a legal category, included in the treaties in 1992 in particular, with the Treaty of Maastricht. And under the legal perspective, the citizenship means the possibility, particular status that allows to have equal rights and equal duties with all the other citizenship, all the members of the same population. But it is not only a legal dimension which is characterizing the citizenship, because citizenship is also the expression of a social link, common tradition, common values, common cultures, etc., common objectives too. And this social link expresses the link that there is between a person, a citizen, and its own state. Because this is the rules to allow to grant citizens are up to the states. But my question is, the European Union is not a state, actually. So how could it be? It's an international organization, is a project, is a group of states, organized group of states. So how can the European Union grant citizenship to European citizens? And are there any other international organizations that are able to do the same? And the answer is no. Because this is why the European is unique, and the importance of the European citizenship is that is also the political and social purpose that is following. The idea of creating a common population, a common European population with shared values, shared tradition, shared things to believe in. If we read Article 9 of the Treaty of the European Union, I'm aware that it could be boring, but it is a professional deformation, as we say in Italy, dealing with law, teaching European Union law. I'm always thinking to the legal rules when there are legal rules. And we have Article 9 of the Treaty of the European Union, which is very clear. In my opinion, the text, the legal text, the legal way to express the legal provisions of the treaties of the European Union is very clear, even if because they must be translated in many languages. In all its activities, the Union shall observe the principle of the equality of its citizens, same rights and same duties, who shall receive equal attention from its institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies. Every national of a member state shall be a citizen of the Union. Citizenship of the Union shall be additional to and not replace national citizenship. And in my opinion, this is a very clear provision of the European Union. And with a late Latin expression, ubi societas, ibi jus. What does it mean? And when there is a society, society means also a group of citizens, there is jus, there is law. And we can express the same notion also in the contrary. Ubi jus, ibi societas. Right? Law doesn't have any sense without a societas, without a group of people that are ready to respect the law, that they believe in the law. And the European Union citizens should be considered societas, so should be considered members of the same societas with equal rights and equal duties. And this is my personal, very quick overview about the European citizen. Now, switching to the third part and last part of my presentation, I would like to talk very quickly about the Erasmus program, even if very quickly also because Giada already explained very well all the main factors of the Erasmus program. But I would like also to dedicate a few times to the digital transition policies within the Erasmus. And in particular, the Erasmus has been launched in 1987 to support the student mobility, so this was the very first idea. It has been inspired by Erasmus of Rotterdam, Erasmo da Rotterdam. This is why it took this name. Was a philosopher, symbol of learning and dialogue between people, the importance of dialogue with other people. And of course it is, as you already know, founded and promoted by the European Commission. According to this report of the official agency INDIRE of 2023, so it is not very updated, but it's enough to understand, as Giada already said in her presentation, It is very, very important to understand that Erasmus is one of the most successful initiatives of the European Union. More than 13 million beneficiaries since 1987, more than 4,000 participating institutions, and more than 300,000 students' mobilities per year. So it's a huge amount of person who are exercise the right to the freedom of movement within the European Union. As you already know, the Erasmus budget increased in the last years, but the most important thing that I would like to underline is that Erasmus is no more only a program dedicated to university students and to make easier the possibility to study abroad, but it is also a very wide program dedicated also to high schools. This is why you are here today, but dedicated also to teachers, because yesterday I've been involved in a meeting with high school teachers and professors to learn how to improve the Erasmus. It is also a very important source of financement, for example, at the university, but also in high schools. There are many possibilities to receive money from the European Union to build up projects of mobility, of education, of cross-border research within the Erasmus. So it's no more only about student mobility. It's a very wide program now dedicated to NGOs, public and private organizations, educators, trainers, etc. So these are only few benefits, few advantages that you can receive on a personal level with the Erasmus. I think that Giada stressed out it very well in her presentation, saying how it is important to make an Erasmus experience, a mobility, an international mobility experience. And it is true that on a personal level, Erasmus could be considered a life-changing experience for millions of young European citizens like you. Many relevant and positive aspects, the improving of language and intercultural skills, increased employability, personal growth, and also the possibility to develop the soft skills, for example, and independence, the sense of autonomy, the resilience, this is the word Giada used, and the possibility also to create and reinforce international networks and friendship. So this is benefits, these are advantages on an individual level, but on a general level, there is something positive we can find in the Erasmus program. Is there also a social and collective function of the Erasmus program? In my opinion, the answer is yes. And it is linked also to the notion of citizens, of the citizenship, of course, because Erasmus has the possibility to promote solidarity, tolerance, inclusion, open our minds, to build a shared European identity, this is a very important word, and to encourage the active citizenship. These are all positive aspects of the Erasmus on a general and collective level. And with specific reference to the digital transition, and this is the very last part of my presentation, Erasmus is particularly focused in the last years in particular to the digital world, to digital policies, because this is the direction which is following the world, is following the economy and the social relationships. Indeed, there is also the possibility, for example, of digital opportunity trainships, blended mobility. There are many EU digital platforms. Erasmus encourages the possibility, the use of technology, digital technology in education. And there is also the possibility to be financed by the European Commission to make researches in the digital sector. For example, in Urbino we are applying for many research projects in the context of AI, and Digital Services Act, and other digital platforms related issues. And this is very important because the European Union is promoting the new category of the digital single market, but also about the EU digital citizenship. So there's no more only European citizenship, but it is also European digital citizenship. And what does it mean? It means that rights that are guaranteed, are ensured, and must be equal and respected offline should also be respected and guaranteed also online. The fact that legal or social relations is created or is developed online doesn't mean that it doesn't have to follow the same rules that are applying offline. And this is very important because one of the main policies of the European Union in the future is the digital transition. And most of you will be engaged and deployed in the future in the digital sector. You should be aware about that. Article 26 of the Treaty of the European Union, dedicated to the single market, in particular underlines that the internal market shall comprise an area without internal frontiers in which the free movement of goods, persons, services and capital is ensured. And in this context, the European Union has had the opportunity to promote legal sources of law, legal pieces of legislation concerning the digital dimension, and in particular we can remember the GDPR, the General Data Protection Act, justified by Article 16 of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union. And but this is not the only one, and in particular I would like to mention this to show you this table. I am aware that it's not possible to see it very well and to read it very well, but this was my proper intention. This is not an official document. It is not a document, it's not a source created by the European Commission. Its object is the number of pieces of legislation, of sources of law, adopted by the European Union in the last 10-15 years concerning the digital transition. We have more than 100 sources of law concerning digital transition. More than 80 instruments to monitor, control, to ask for the protection about potential violation of the rights ensured by the European Union and by national law. More than 80. This is a private think tank that made this very appreciable and remarkable work, in my opinion, trying to search, to make a general overview of all this legislation. What's the problem? The problem is the legal overlappings. The problem is that many of these instruments are overlapping between them. It is not easy for a professional to understand which is the right rule to be applied. It is not easy to understand where is it possible to find the right source of law to understand what is the solution of a legal case. For example, there are very strong links between the Digital Services Act, which is a regulation concerning the responsibilities of the platforms, and this a potential of overlap is with the Artificial Intelligence Act, because rules for example, social networks. I think that there's no need to mention a specific one. Social networks has responsibility in their activity, in the digital activities they carry out. But what about, so there is relevant, the Digital Services Act, but what about if they are used, for example, for system of moderation, content moderation, or recommendation, are used artificial intelligence system? In that case, we need to apply the Artificial Intelligence Act. Or what about there is a political connection in the content? We have to apply the regulation on political advertising. Oh, it is very complicated to understand which is the correct rule to apply. This is why it is very important to be aware on cross-border problems, legal problems in particular. This is why it's important to use a possibility, an opportunity such as the Erasmus to go abroad and to make a comparison and to be aware about the cross-border potential problems. And also this is why it is very important to start studying digital transition also in high schools and also in the university. This is why we are very focused in the University of Urbino, in the Erasmus, of course, but also in the digital transition, also because Erasmus is very focused on digital policies. This is my last presentation, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit on delay. This is my last slide. Solutions through Erasmus. Some of them has already been identified by my colleagues. Erasmus, in helping to strengthen the sense of belonging to the European Union and being a European Union citizen, can, first of all, make a future generation aware of the legal and social challenges of the digital world. Second of all, increase the focus on the problems in the digital world within higher education and improve the quality of teaching and training, because we have to deal with, also if we are trainers, we are teachers and professors, we have to deal with digital transition, and also we have to be aware about that borders are not so strong right now. Increase opportunities for international discussion and exchange on new problems that are emerging and will continue to emerge. Facilitate the comparison of potential solutions and the identification of the most appropriate ones only with the dialogue, only with the comparison, only if we have the possibility to discuss with persons and colleagues from other European countries, at least, we will be able to compare and find the best solutions. Increase the opportunity of work, employment, and economic growth, of course. And at the end, make the European digital citizenship effective and concretely implemented in the digital single market, economic perspective, but also for the digital social ecosystem, because European Union is no more only economy. Thank you very much, and you can see there my email if you need to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you, Professor Rossi, for your speech that I find incredibly interesting. And if the public has any question, please raise your hand and come here to the table. Brian, come here, please.
I think you're fantastic, because all the questions, the first questions, are from the students from the ESN, because we are able to understand you with this special plate you have, and this is very important. I really appreciate it also for the others, because this means that you took time to read our presentation, to study, and to be prepared to this opportunity, and this is very remarkable in my opinion. So thank you in advance.
Thank you. I have a question. Since obtaining a European citizenship can be quite difficult for people originally from non-European countries, will there be ways to simplify the whole bureaucratic process? And how can the Erasmus program support the integration or help them feel more included in the European community?
Thank you very much for your question. That is very, very interesting, and I should be honest, it's not easy to find the right answer and the proper answer. I think that the European citizen has been a real the European citizenship has been a real revolution, also on the political level, not only on the legal level, because if you are a citizen, you have same rights and same duties. This means that you are able to be considered as a recipient of a legislation of a state, or in the case of the European Union, of an international organization. But it also had the opportunity to reinforce a political and social sense of belonging to the European Union. And this is why, in my opinion, after the European citizenship, after the Treaty of Maastricht in particular, the European Union legislation, the European Union institutions, and the member states also on the basis of the principle of mutual cooperation and fair cooperation between states, member states, and the European institutions, decided also to improve other pieces of legislation concerning the freedom of mobility also from persons from third states to the European Union, and also there are many directives and regulations that are trying to implement the rules of Article 9, for example, of the treaties, try to implement in the right way, in the concrete way, in the specific sector. So this is why, in my opinion, the European citizenship has been so important and makes a very difference between the first, the period before the Treaty of Maastricht. And I don't remember the second part of the question.
How can the Erasmus program can help to feel them more involved into the whole situationship of the European citizenship?
I think that it's very difficult, again, it's very difficult, but I think it's very important. Also, if we think that we are here today discussing with people from many states, also online, they're able to understand us. This is why Erasmus program is helping to reinforce the sense of belonging to the European Union. If there is not the possibility to travel around, to go abroad, to go in a protected environment, to study in the best years of our lives, to study abroad, there is not the possibility to be aware about how could the European Union improve our lives. So in my opinion, of course, the student mobility is the most important aspect of the contribution that the Erasmus program can give to the European integration and to the European Union. But this is not the only factor, because there are also the other opportunities that Erasmus will continue to giving to us also after the students' mobility. So there's many possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You.
Are there any other questions? Aurora, please come.
Do you think we can truly speak of a digital European citizenship today, or is still just a political slogan?
Very good question. In my opinion, it is not still concrete as European citizenship is becoming. It has a very important political slogan component, in my opinion, and the most important problem that I see is the lack of certainty in the content of the European digital citizenship. We are not sure about the content of our digital rights. We are not able to understand perfectly what can we do, what are our rights online and offline. If we think that we are a victim of a violation, of a breach of the European Union, which is the correct instruments that we can use. And it is complicated also for professionals. It is complicated for academics who are studying European Union digital sources of law. And I can imagine how could it be difficult for a regular citizen who is not expert in these topics. And if there is not certainty, legal certainty, if there is not accessibility and knowledge of our rights, it could not become a very effective notion, a very effective category. This is why, in my opinion, it is true and it is fair and it is very, I appreciate very much the fact that the European Union is trying to improve the European digital citizenship, but there is still a lot of road to do before arriving at a very effective outcome. Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I will thank again the Professor Rossi for being here today and for the speech, and I will leave the word to my colleague Salvatore.
Thank you all for your questions, and thank you again to our speakers for your wonderful speech. We have now come to an end of the day, but before we leave, we would like to present you another small initiative of our association on the occasion of Europe Day. In fact, we have asked the collaboration of the entire Urbino student community and collected pictures of Urbino students who have spent a period of mobility abroad and of those who, from abroad, have come to Urbino to do their Erasmus, or to create a picture presentation containing the stories and experiences of those who, through their participation in the Erasmus Plus program, have had the pleasure of experiencing the beauty of being European citizens. The exhibition, like the conference, is held every year, and it is great to see how it grows every year, filling up more and more with the memories and experiences of the Erasmus generation. You can see the exhibition right here on my back. I would again like to thank everyone who attended the day and followed us and those who made it possible. I will now leave the floor to my colleague Carola for some final greetings.
So we have come to the end of this day, and I'm really glad that you was here. I would like to thank all the speakers that today took the floor. Thank you very much for participating and being here with us today. I would also like to thank you, the University of Urbino, all the Erasmus office that will always help us in every hour's initiative like this. I would like to thank Fabio Marangoni that helped us streaming the whole conferences online, and all the human beings that help us spreading our mission, that is students helping students. So we really appreciate everything you do with us. Last but not least, I would like also to thank all the participants from the Liceo Laurana and all the professors that bring them here today. And we really appreciate all your presence. It's the second year you come, and we hope to see you again next one. And also, finally, thank to our association, thank to all the members of ESN Urbino. I'm really proud of you. I really love your energies, your passion that you put in everything we do in our initiative. I would like to thank my colleague and Vice President Salvatore that helped me through this. And I would wish you the best for all the projects you have in life. Keep your passion, keep learning, never stop in anything. I'm getting emotional, sorry. And thank you very much. You help us and you help me in what we do. And spread our mission with Erasmus that come here every year, some of which I can see in the crowd. And that's it. Thank you again to anyone, to my board members, to my active members, to who has followed us online, to Giada that come here from far away. And that's it. Thank you very much once again. That was it. I'm really, really happy and proud of this day. Now I would like to take some photo all together in order to remember it better in the future. Thank you again.